The leader. The first Purge movie introduces one of the most disturbing ideas in modern horror. In a seemingly perfect America, all crime becomes legal for one night every year. Murder, theft, and violence are not only allowed, they're encouraged. Believing their advanced security system will keep them safe, James Sandin locks himself inside his luxurious home with his wife and children, convinced they can simply wait for the nightmare to end. Everything changes when their son secretly lets a wounded stranger into the house. Moments later, a group of masked young adults surrounds the property. Throughout the entire attack, one masked man calmly leads the group, speaking with perfect manners while promising unimaginable violence. His expressionless mask makes him feel almost inhuman. Then comes the shocking reveal. The leader quietly removes his mask, exposing not a scarred monster, but an ordinary, well-dressed young man with a calm smile and empty eyes. That simple moment is far more disturbing than any creature could be. He isn't hiding because he's disfigured. He's hiding because someone so normal is capable of enjoying pure cruelty. The unmasking reveals the film's darkest truth. The real horror isn't the purge itself. It's realizing the monster behind the mask could be anyone. Sometimes the most terrifying face is the one that looks completely ordinary. The Babyface. The first Happy Death Day trapped Tree in a terrifying time loop where she was murdered over and over again. But the sequel takes the concept even further by revealing that the killer isn't just hiding behind a mask, but behind an entirely different reality. This time, the story follows Ryan Fan, Carter's roommate, who suddenly finds himself reliving the same day. Every morning starts exactly the same, and every night ends with someone wearing the university's creepy baby mask hunting him down. No matter what Ryan changes, the killer always finds him, making it seem impossible to escape the endless cycle. Desperate to break the loop, Ryan joins Tree and her friends to uncover who's hiding beneath the mask. As the attacks become more relentless, they finally manage to corner the mysterious figure after a desperate chase through the university. Following a violent struggle, Tree steps forward and slowly pulls off the mask. Instead of revealing a stranger, the face underneath is Ryan's own. But it's not the Ryan they know. It's an alternate version of him from another universe, one willing to kill to repair the timeline he believes was broken. The familiar baby mask suddenly takes on a completely different meaning. It was never hiding a random murderer. It was hiding another version of the hero himself, someone who believed murder was the only way to fix reality. The reveal transforms the entire movie. What looked like another slasher mystery becomes a story about parallel universes, impossible choices, and the terrifying idea that the person chasing you could be you, the stalker. At first, Hush feels like a simple home invasion movie. Maddie Young is a successful writer living alone in a remote house deep in the woods. But there's one detail that changes everything. Maddie is deaf, making silence itself the killer's greatest weapon. One night, a masked stranger appears outside her home. Wearing a pale, expressionless mask, he quietly watches her through the windows, knowing she can't hear his footsteps or his breathing. Instead of breaking in immediately, he begins playing cruel psychological games, showing himself just long enough to remind Maddie that she's completely trapped. As every escape attempt fails, the killer grows more confident. He knocks on windows, cuts the power, and patiently waits for fear to do most of the work. The blank white mask makes him seem almost inhuman, like an unstoppable force with no emotions or identity. Then comes the film's most surprising moment. Without hesitation, the man calmly removes his own mask. There's nothing shocking underneath. No scars, no deformity, no hidden identity, just an ordinary face with a cold smile and empty eyes. He isn't protecting his identity anymore because he believes Maddie will never survive to tell anyone who he is. That simple decision completely changes the dynamic between them. The mask was never his real source of fear. His true weapon is the confidence of someone who enjoys hunting another human being without feeling a single ounce of guilt. By showing his face, he proves he has already decided how the night will end. But in underestimating Maddie, he also gives her the opportunity she desperately needed to fight back. Best friend. Smiley begins with an unsettling internet legend. According to the rumor, if someone types the phrase, "I did it for the LOLs" 3 times during an online video chat, a masked killer called Smiley will appear and brutally murder the person on the other end of the screen. Most people dismiss it as another creepy story made to scare teenagers online. Ashley, a college student already struggling with anxiety, becomes fascinated by the legend. But when people around her begin dying under mysterious circumstances, the line between fiction and reality starts to disappear. The smiling mask appears everywhere she looks, making it impossible to know who can actually be trusted. As the paranoia grows, Ashley begins suspecting everyone around her. Friends, classmates, and even the man she starts falling for all seem connected to the murders somehow. Eventually, she finds herself surrounded by several figures wearing the same stitched smile mask, all moving as if they're part of something much bigger. Then, the truth is finally exposed. The Smileys aren't supernatural monsters or a single serial killer. They're ordinary people hiding in plain sight. Friends, classmates, and trusted faces are all members of a secret online group that turned a fake urban legend into reality. Their goal isn't revenge or money. They simply want to spread fear and inspire copycat murders across the internet. In its final twist, Ashley survives the fall. Then, in the last moments, a new Smiley emerges from the darkness. It's a face no one recognizes. Is it the real Smiley? Or just another copycat? The film never answers, leaving the nightmare far from over. The Pumpkin. At first glance, Trick or Treat looks like a fun Halloween anthology filled with costumes, candy, and glowing jack-o'-lanterns. But hidden among its interconnected stories is a mysterious child wearing orange pajamas and a burlap sack over his head. Silent and always watching, he's known only as Sam. Throughout the film, Sam appears whenever someone disrespects Halloween traditions. Whether it's blowing out a jack-o'-lantern too early, stealing candy, or mocking the holiday, he quietly punishes anyone who breaks the rules. Despite his childlike appearance, there's something deeply unsettling about him. He never speaks, never shows emotion, and always seems to appear exactly where he's needed. Everything builds toward his confrontation with Mr. Krieg, a bitter old man who hates Halloween and ignores every tradition. After a brutal fight, Krieg finally gains the upper hand and tears the burlap sack from Sam's head. What comes off isn't just a mask. Beneath it is the horrifying face of a living pumpkin. His head is twisted into a demonic jack-o'-lantern with glowing eyes, jagged teeth, and rotten flesh, revealing that Sam was never a human child at all. He's an ancient creature that exists solely to protect the spirit of Halloween. The unmasking completely changes how we see the character. Sam isn't another masked killer hiding his identity. The sack was simply covering his true form. He's the physical embodiment of Halloween itself, enforcing its traditions with ruthless discipline. And when Krieg finally offers him a piece of candy, Sam accepts it and quietly walks away, proving that on Halloween, following the rules can mean the difference between life and death. The Zombie. By the time Friday the 13th Part 7 was released, Jason Voorhees had already become one of horror's most recognizable masked killers. His hockey mask wasn't just an accessory anymore. It had become the face of the franchise itself. But this time, the movie finally lets the audience see what years beneath the mask had turned him into. The story follows Tina Shepard, a teenager with powerful telekinetic abilities who accidentally resurrects Jason from the bottom of Crystal Lake. As he begins another killing spree, Tina becomes the only person capable of fighting him, using her psychic powers instead of weapons to slow the unstoppable killer. Their final confrontation is unlike anything seen in the series before. Tina hurls Jason through walls, sets him on fire, and crushes him with anything she can control. With every attack, the legendary hockey mask begins to crack under the pressure. Then it finally breaks. For the first time, Jason's face is exposed in horrifying detail. Instead of the man hidden beneath the mask, we see a rotting corpse with decaying flesh, exposed teeth, and a shattered jaw. Time has transformed him into something that barely resembles a human being. He's no longer just a masked killer. He's a walking corpse driven only by endless rage. The reveal makes Jason even more terrifying. The mask was never hiding an ordinary face waiting to be uncovered. It was concealing a monster that had been slowly rotting beneath it for years. Once it's gone, the audience realizes there's nothing human left to save. The hockey mask may have created the legend, but the face underneath proves that Jason stopped being a man long ago. The Fisherman. I Know What You Did last summer begins with 4 friends celebrating after graduation. On their way home, they accidentally hit a man standing in the middle of the road. Believing he's dead, Panic takes over. Instead of calling the police, they dump the body into the ocean and swear to never speak about that night again. A year later, their secret comes back to haunt them. Julie receives an anonymous letter with a chilling message. "I know what you did last summer." Soon, someone wearing a dark fisherman's coat and carrying a deadly hook begins stalking the group. One by one, the friends are hunted down by the silent killer, who always seems to know exactly where they'll be. As the murders continue, Julie desperately searches for the truth, convinced the killer must be someone connected to the accident. The mystery reaches its climax when she's captured and taken aboard a fishing boat surrounded by thick fog. That's where the hood finally comes off. Beneath it is Ben Willis, the man they believed they had killed that night. The reveal is shocking, not because he's a monster, but because he's just an ordinary man whose empty stare is filled with grief and rage. Ben was a father devastated by the death of his son, and the accident became the trigger for something even darker. Earlier that same night, he had murdered his son's boyfriend. In other words, the teenagers unknowingly buried alive a killer who was already fleeing another crime. Now, he had returned for revenge. When Ben's face is finally revealed, the audience understands what the true horror of "I Know What You Did Last Summer" really is.